Welcome back, everyone. Glad you can join us. My name's Dylan, for those of you who haven't met me yet, and Jean-Ray on camera work there. And again, it's great that you can be with us, and please just enjoy the drives this afternoon. It is kids session for the next hour or so, so any questions are obviously welcomed. We'll focus on those first, and I just hope all our my colleagues down in the Lowveld and Northern KwaZulu-Natal at Phinda, they also have really good drives, and it's just great having you with. These African savannas that we're in here, these semi-arid savannas, we're so focused on looking at animals and live things, but death is very, very much a part of these systems. And we have an interesting skull. We actually came upon the remnants of this antelope. It's quite a large antelope, and if any of the viewers can guess what it is, please feel free to feed through some answers. Any guesses? So these animals are living out here, and you can see the remains, the rest of him over here. It's not just an easy life. These environments are very, very harsh. Obviously, we are also susceptible to droughts, fires less frequently, but it's a tough life. And I'm going to wait for you to come up with an answer about what it is. But very often older animals, and you can see how this horn's actually come off. If we put it back on there, you can see it was a very old animal, worn off horns, and even the condition of the teeth are very, very, very worn. So I would guess this animal probably was either taken by the pack of wild dogs, maybe spotted hyenas, or simply just died of old age. But while we ponder this circle of life, I think head over to our colleagues, and I think they're going to have some really exciting viewing for you this afternoon, and Jean-Ray and I will try to find something that's slightly more animate than this one. But come up
all around the world that's currently watching. So I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala, and with me, with the camera is Owen. Sorry, there was a fly bugging me. So this morning, we went out searching for these lions the whole morning, and eventually, just after drive, one of the other rangers, or two of the other rangers, Pete and Eric, found these lions. But if you have a look right over there, you'll notice one of the young cubs is suckling as we speak. And the other one is just lying down off to the right. But I think let's focus on this one here. But there's quite a few lions within this pride. So what we'll try and do, just to show everyone more or less of where these lions are, we'll start off to the left. So you'll notice, just off to the left here, there's a tree with a bit of shade. So it is warm as we speak. So you'll see there's quite a few of them lying down in the shade. And then from there on, if we move slightly off to the right, you'll notice there's another big female that's lying down with her head or chin resting on her right leg. And then just right of that, there's another female also. At the moment, she's just grooming herself. You can see her licking her paw, probably brushed it through her face a couple of times to clean it. Now, it doesn't look like they made a kill, but there's a good chance that they might have made, possibly it could have been something really small last night or the day before. And now she's probably just cleaning her face before eventually, as it starts cooling down, they'll start moving from there. But then right over here, I'm going to try and just bend this aerial out of the way. As you'll notice that the other ones are lying more in the open, and you'll notice that young white female is the closest to us. You can see her color in comparison to the others, very light in color, and then of course just behind them, Owen, just have a look. Sorry, there's one female just got up now. Let's just see if she'll go back to that other one, and also with it now cooling down, if they might start moving. Let's just see. With them, they have a very strong bond, so often the bigger females will go rub their faces against one another, almost encouraging each other. Okay, come on, it's time to go. Good stretch, and then they might start moving from there. So for all the young kids, if you have any questions about lions or want to know a little bit more about their behavior, please remember to send us those questions so we can try absolute best to answer them for you. But you'll notice with these two, often with the pride like this, if there's any opportunity for them to eventually hunt or start moving, they'll probably be the ones that instigate it. They'll say to each other, okay, come on, let's go. And then all the rest of the pride will then follow them. But it is a beautiful scene. Now, with today, it's not as warm as it's been over the last few days. It's actually cooling down quite a bit, where whenever there's not a lot of sun, it feels like we need to put a jacket on. But hopefully, with that, it would also encourage these lions to possibly start moving. But we'll just watch them for a little while longer and see if there's a chance. Now, there is also, as we mentioned earlier, there is a young male that's laying down not too far from where they are, but he is still pretty much covered by the grass. But we'll try and see if we can just position the camera so you can see him. Yeah, with the leg up in the air. So you'll see this male's actually laying down with his foot. Oh, there's one. You'll notice that one has quite a lot of fluff around the neck. So that's a young male that's now stretching out his paws. And just like at the back of where he is also another young male. But they are so relaxed as we speak. Just look at the way they're lying down. Very relaxed and very lazy as we speak. But that's the thing about lions. So for all the kids, it's just, so lions are very lazy animals. There's been records of them sleeping up to 20 hours a day. Just imagine that. For 20 long hours they'll sleep, and then possibly for 4 hours just move, and then of course that's when they look out for hunting opportunity. It's not always the case. Sometimes they'll basically rest up in the heat of the day just to conserve energy, and also the chances of hunting also is a little bit more difficult in the day because they can be let me rephrase that. So some of the prey species can spot them easier in the daytime in comparison to at night, because they rely heavily on ambush in order to try and get as close as they can before they hunt. But I think what we'll do is let's just get back to this one cub that's suckling. And what's quite amazing is that it's only been like a week now where this young female has slowly started to introduce her youngsters to the rest of the pride, and she's getting a bit more and more comfortable with them being around. So I think while we're going to spend some time with these lions and see if there's a chance of them starting to move, we're going to send you across to Tristan and Djuma, apparently with some elephants in the water.
We are with some elephants. Well, not only elephants, actually. We've got two of the big animals here that a lot of people like to come and see. We've got the elephants over there, and just to the left of them, a nice small breeding herd of buffalo, which is really, really nice. So it's nice to have both of these animals down at the waterhole. It's quite a common thing to see at this time of the day. You get a lot of animals that come down in order to drink, even though it's not been hot today at all. It's actually quite a cool day here. But these guys do need water, particularly buffalo and elephants. They're two of the species that we see out here that are the most dependent on water. But before we discuss all of those kinds of things, I need to tell you who I am. Otherwise, I'm just a voice in the kind of midst of technology. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got BK this afternoon. And like I said, very warm welcome to Djuma. Hopefully it's going to be a productive afternoon. So far it is, I suppose. To have two of the more iconic animals in the same place is always a great way to start the day, that's for sure. I suppose not the start of the day, but the start of the afternoon. Now, you can see the buffalo are kind of just sitting around, not doing too much. I think they were trying to come down to drink, but the Ellies have been a little bit of a bully to some of them. They come down and they try and chase the buffalo a little bit. It's quite a common thing to see when elephants are at water. They get a bit protective of their water, and they can sometimes chase all the other animals, sometimes birds, and various other things. Oh, this one's about to play with mud in front here, BK, sorry. I know that's you're at the buffalo, but it's quite interesting watching these ellies in front as well. They've been busy themselves. They had a little mud sort of wallow, and they're using their tusks to actually break the mud up before they sort of push their heads into it and throw it on their backs and their sides in order just to kind of cool themselves down, as well as to create basically a layer that will harden on their body. So as the layer hardens on their body, so they're going to scratch up against a tree or something like that, and it'll actually help just, one, exfoliate the skin to get rid of any sort of dead skin cells that potentially are on them, but two, to get rid of any parasites. So if they've got ticks, that mud encapsulates those ticks or hardens around the tick, and then when they rub, it actually pulls the tick off, which is very, very clever. So you can see this one is kind of on its knees now, playing in the mud, which is a common thing to see with ellies. They love mud and bath time. They really enjoy kind of getting dirty and just covering themselves. But the herd of elephants is actually quite big. It's not just the 2 or 3 that we see here. They're actually stretching all over this whole area. And what you'll find, as we're going to see this afternoon, is that they'll spend their time quite close to the waterhole feeding. And as they kind of feed, they'll eventually get to the point where it's just before dark. Both the buffalo and the elephants will probably drink again. And then they start to move away from water points like this to slightly more open clearings, particularly the buffalo, where they'll then spend the night. So I wouldn't be surprised these guys from here come up to this more open clearing behind me, where they'll be able to rest. And the reason why they do that is that they know at this time of the day the predators aren't really active. It's still warm enough that most of the predators will be fairly sleepy, and so it's better for them to come down to water now, and to take that chance, especially because of how bushy it is around this dam. And then at night time, when the predators are more active, better for them to come up to a more clear area where they can spot things like lions, particularly in a buffalo's case, a lot easier. So we'll probably find that they'll move like that, or they're going to go a little bit further to the north during the course of this afternoon to another little pan that's round the back of the lodge. It's also got a nice little open clearing that they can spend a bit of time. Just see a couple of the little ones. I wonder if that little one might be eating sand. Sometimes they can eat sand. Oh no, it's got itself a little root. Sometimes animals do eat sand, or even eat their mother's dung. So in the case of little baby elephants, they will eat their mother's dung quite regularly, and it helps to just get their digestive system working and to get a whole bunch of bacterias and certain elements inside there to basically be able to digest the food that they eat. Other animals, like I say, eat sand and the earth, and that's to get minerals that they might be lacking in their diet. This one male buffalo is making me laugh. He's passed out completely on the right-hand side. You see him, BK? He's decided that's nap time. He almost looks like he's dead. He's not. He's very much alive. He's just, I think, had a really rough day today, and I can sympathize in many respects. And so I'm glad that he's getting a nice nap. He's decided that he's not going to wait until this evening before he sleeps, that he's just going to lie down and take it easy right now, which is cool. Like I say, he is very much alive. If you watch his tummy, you'll see that it's rising and falling very, very slowly, and his ears are flicking. You can also see the oxpeckers that are cruising around on him. So those little bits are helping keep him clean. So unlike the elephants, that have trunks and tails, and they generally are very good at keeping their skin quite clean, also lack a lot of fur. They don't have a huge amount of parasites. Buffalo, on the other hand, because they have fur, they typically attract a lot of ticks. And so while they could use mud to go and get kind of covered in it and then rub it and get rid of ticks that way, it's not the most effective means because there's just too many of them that latch onto them. And remember, ticks have these harpoon-like mouth structures that go into the skin, and that's how they feed off the host. And it's actually quite difficult to pull a tick out. So these guys need some help, and that's what those birds are doing, is they are landing on these guys and basically cutting off those ticks, essentially, and keeping these guys clean. Fernanda, so no, they don't always live in herds. What you'll find with buffalo is that if it's a female and calves, they generally like to stay in groupings, and that will then attract some of the boys, and they'll kind of come in, and so you'll have males with females and calves. But that grouping together means that they use a lot of water and a lot of food. And so that means they cover a lot of distance, which some of the older males are not really interested in doing. They don't like to walk too far. And so if they find a place where there's water and food, then often they just fall off the herd and they go off on their own, and they're known as dugger boys. And dugger is basically a type of mud that is used in South Africa or in Africa to cement a house or to basically plaster a house. And so when they have the mud on them, they look like that they have had dugger put on them. And so they often can be on their own. You won't see a female buffalo on her own unless there's something drastic has happened, like lions have separated her or something like that. But male buffalo you will see on their own. And what happens with them is then they live in an area for a while, and after a little bit, another herd will come past and they can join that herd and walk with them for a little bit and then break off, and so it goes from there. All right, we'll sit here for a little while longer. It's really peaceful watching the buffalo and the elephants as they go about their afternoon's work. And while we do that, it sounds like Dylan is getting in touch with nature and has shoved his feet in the sand.
One of these really elusive animals that we've been looking for, the aardvark. This is a very, very good sign that there's aardvark in the area. There's digging over here, and then they kick the sand up between their hind legs. Their front feet have got these incredibly powerful claws that are almost hollow. Well, they are hollow on the inside, and that actually enables them to scoop big handfuls of sand. If you had to have an aardvark in your hand, their front feet are about the same size as the average human hand when it's spread out like that. So you've got this incredible ability. They can dig very, very fast. So you get this mound of sand kicked out behind them. This is a foraging burrow, so it's a very small one. But then typically you see where the tail is lying over there, and then they kick the sand around it like that, so that gives that very clear mark. These tracks are not, these signs of feeding are not very fresh, and there are other ones around over here. See, there's some over here, there's some over here, but at least it indicates that we're kind of in a good area for them. We'll have to wait for the temperature to go down a little bit, but Jandra and I will just keep driving around and looking for any fresh sign. And if there's fresh sign that we can locate, that means we can focus on that area. But while we're doing that, head back to Ngala and see what's up on that side.
So a few of the lions actually got up and started moving further on. So you'll notice that those ones, like they just gone flat. But you'll notice on this side, more off to our left, there's still two females that picked up their heads. You'll even notice this young female that was laying down with the two young cubs, how she picked up her head and she's looking around. Now the biggest thing is, as soon as one of them start moving, all of them would of course follow. But earlier on there was a wildebeest that moved in the tree line, and it was moving from left to right. And I wonder if that wildebeest moving, maybe that smell blew onto these lions, and that's why they picked up their heads, just to scan the area to see if there's anything. But it was pretty far off, so it will be interesting just to see what's going to happen from here, if there's going to be another opportunity, or if they're just going to wait until it starts getting a bit darker before they start moving. There's one youngster that also got up now. It's one of the young males, and he's probably going to move towards where that female is now. There he is. I think if we can follow him on, because he's going to go to that other female that has the youngsters. Let's see how she would react to it. Archie from Singapore, very good question. Like with the lions, they can basically eat anything from elephants to buffalo to zebra to wildebeest, impala, warthogs. They'll try and take birds if they can. They're very opportunistic, so anything that they can possibly hunt, they'll try and do that. So there's some prides in Botswana that will go for something as big as an elephant. But but then also some of the other prides that will only go for warthogs or waterbuck or zebra or wildebeest, basically just very opportunistic, anything they can possibly get. Of course, some of the things they might not eat is something like a hyena, unless there's a severe drought or a lot of or they're really hungry and there's no other food available, then they'll start possibly scavenging. But also, like I found with lions, they tend to chase other predators also away from the kills. If they do find leopards or even wild dogs, even hyenas, if a hyena's made a kill, you'll find that the lions will chase the hyenas off the kill and then take the kill. I know in Ngorongoro Crater in Tanzania, it's often recorded where the hyenas would make a kill and the lions chase the hyenas off to grab the kill. So while we're spending some more time with these beautiful, this beautiful pride, we're going to send you across to andBeyond Phinda, because apparently they have 3 rhinos.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I hear you've been spending a bit of time with Nikki with some lions. That sounds absolutely incredible. But have a look over here what we've managed to find for you today. Also, just by the way, before I forget, I am Clive, and behind the camera today we have Marcel, by the way. But have a look what we've managed to find for you. There are 3 white rhino grazing through this beautiful open grassland here. Now for now they are probably in the region of about 80 meters away from us, but they are slowly but surely coming our direction as they are kind of just with their head down, they're slowly walking. Now what this is, because it's quite interesting to see 3 rhinos together. The one on the far left, I'm sure you would agree, is probably the biggest out of the 3. And that is the mother, the big adult female. And then the smaller one that's closest to her will more than likely be her calf, which is already quite old. At that size, it's probably in the region of about anywhere between 2 and 3 years. And what's happened is that third one, the one that's further away, is another calf that's recently been pushed away by its mother, and it's just for safety, it's come and now joined up with these other 2 rhinos. You can imagine the one on the right has now been pushed away from its mother. It's feeling, it's kind of probably wondering, why am I being pushed away? And it's a bit nervous with being out in this wilderness by himself. So it just feels a little bit more comfortable when there's some more presence of other rhinos. Hi Gabriel, you asking if we have a big population of black rhinos? Black rhinos are quite endangered as it is. But as far as populations of black rhinos, yes, we have a relatively decent one as far as I know. But because of the black rhino's habits, they're much harder to find. So you find them in thicker areas because they eat off of trees, unlike these white rhinos ahead of us, which are feeding off of the grass. So the black rhinos feed off of trees, so they're often in much thicker areas. And also they're just generally, their behavior is a bit more nervous around vehicles or anything that they don't know. So they are much harder to find. But it's funny you ask that, because when we left today, that is what I really wanted to go out and look for. And we were going to go out and look for some tracks and see if we could follow them. But we've come across these beautiful white rhinos here. Now, for those of you who don't know, the reason we are comfortable with showing you rhinos, which is quite groundbreaking. Sorry, I'll get back to you on that. Ruben, that's another very good question. Ruben has asked why these are called white rhinos. Now, I don't know if you know, but the white and black rhino, there's actually no color difference between the two. They're all the same color, but the white rhino has a big square mouth. Marcel, maybe you can zoom in. I don't know if you'll be able to see well enough, but when one of them picks up their head, if you have a look at their mouth, it's a big square mouth like that, and it's quite wide. And that word wide was just misinterpreted over the years into white. So that's how it ended up with the name white rhino. But it's got nothing to do with the color, even though if you look at the one quite far on the right and even the one in the middle, it's got it looks quite a lot darker than, let's say, the mother. But that's because it's been lying off in a mud wallow somewhere, especially on a nice hot day like today. It's been lying in some mud, so that's why it looks like a different color. So apparently, Nikki has got a very exciting update for you over at Ngala. We're going to cut across to him now, but we are going to stay with these rhinos and wait for them to come a bit closer.
So we just saw this, it looks like the young male cub. He's just walked around and lied down right in front of Mom, or just on, like right next to Mom actually. Now, he can see with the angle of the sun, it's a very warm color, so that's a good indication that it is slowly starting to cool down for them. But also there's quite a bit of cloud still in the air, and there's a light breeze blowing, so it might be that either the mom's going to decide to move them into either a little bit more shade because it is warming up, or she might even decide just to keep them there for the next little while and watch what the other females are doing. So some of them gotten up and started moving, as we mentioned earlier, more in the direction where the Wildebeest was, but they've all gone and lied down now. So we're going to have to wait the next little while and see if there's anything going to happen with them. But you'll notice with that female that you can see there, look at how carefully she's scanning the open grassland right in front of her, just looking out for any bit of movement. The wind's blowing from her towards us, so you can see the trees in the back, so the wind's coming from there towards her, and that's why she's lying down facing in that direction. The other ones are very, very relaxed right next to her. You'll see Adrian Park Primary School, there's with lions, so we can work it out. So so normally a lioness would be able to start giving birth around about from, on average, 2.5 years. And it's probably going to be every 2.5 years, so 1.5 years, 2 years, 2.5 years intervals when they'll have their young. But it also depends on if the youngsters make it to adulthood or if they die. So if the youngsters unfortunately pass away, then that female would immediately start getting ready to fall pregnant again. But if not, let's say all the litters are successful, then she could have anywhere from 6 to 7 litters during her lifetime, if she managed to successfully raise them, of course. But it all depends on if she raises a few, or if some of them pass away. But I would say on average, if she was successful, it will probably be 6 or 7 litters. You can see Mom's just gotten up. She's starting to stretch. Let's see if the youngsters are going to follow her. Now I wonder if she also, remember we spoke about there was a wildebeest in the open area. I wonder if she also spotted that, or she's just going to move forward to some closer to the bigger lionesses. Lucy, age 5, lions will start eating meat from, believe it or not, close to 2 months. So I've seen it before on andBeyond Peninsula, where Clive is guiding at the moment, where you saw those rhino. So I've seen lions there, especially youngsters this size. You can already see if they start yawning, there's small teeth, so they can't open the carcass or anything that the mom catches. But when the mom opens it, sometimes they'll go and they'll lick. If there's a bit of blood, they'll lick the blood, and they'll slowly start tearing little chunks of meat. But of course, their teeth aren't strong enough to open it themselves and tear big chunks of meat off. But they will be capable from around about 2 months. I would say, to be safe, from 6 months onwards is there when they can really start joining the pride, especially when there's when there's quite a few lions and they do catch something, because unfortunately with lions there's no table manners, and if a cub isn't careful, I just want to have a look. You see this one youngster move closer to the cubs, and look at how the mother immediately got up and she started moving closer, because I think for her as well, she just want to make sure, with her now introducing the youngsters to the rest of the pride, that she doesn't to mess with her babies. So I think what we'll do is, as I mentioned, I think this whole afternoon we'll probably just spend with them and just try and see where they might be off to. But for now, while we do that, let's send you across to Tristan with some elephants.
Well, I hope that you get to spend the whole afternoon with them, Nikki. It's always nice to spend time. It's one of the things that I always try and tell people when they come out on a safari, is to try and spend time with an animal, because the longer you can spend with an animal, the more chance you're going to get of seeing that animal behaving naturally by the fact that it's going to start calming down after you've already got there. So remember that, the sound of a vehicle is a foreign thing for animals. It's not something that is naturally occurring normally. These animals have gotten used to us because we've driven around here for so many years, but it unsettles them slightly. It's noisy, there's obviously an element of smells that come through, and so it takes animals a few minutes just to kind of get used to your presence, and then from there, animals, they have their own lives, they live their own way. It's like somebody coming to you and telling you to be active all the time. So imagine if somebody came to you and said, you must jump up and down for 20 minutes while I watch you, and then they walk away, and then the next person says, okay, now I want you to sprint for 20 minutes while I watch you. And so, animals don't work that way. They live their own lives, and so what we're doing is observing them, and we're watching them. And so we've got to sit back and take time. The longer you spend with an animal, the more you're going to see what its life is like, what it gets up to. You're going to start to, take in the smells, the sounds, not just the sight of it, because when you see an animal, particularly those of you that come for your first time, this is something that I would really recommend for you if you come on a safari, and even for when you're watching at home here, is to not get too overawed by anything. It's obviously difficult, but is when you arrive at a sighting, is to sometimes, I see a lot of people just immediately phones out or cameras out and click, 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 click. And sometimes people don't take a second to actually just absorb what they're seeing. So sometimes it's really nice in a sighting like that, and especially something like elephants, which are not going to just run away from you, is to just take a moment to appreciate, one, that you've made it into whichever African wilderness you're in, if you're looking at elephants. Two, that you're sitting in nature and you're being able to watch these amazing animals. And three, to be able to listen and smell what's going on around you. It's a very important thing. So Lucy, who I think is age 12, is that what you said, Bex? Sorry, or 9? 5. Jeez, I got that very wrong. Sorry, Lucy. You're asking if elephants bleed. So yes, elephants do bleed. In fact, elephants have got so much blood, it's amazing. They have 350 liters of blood. So if you've ever, Lucy, seen a milk bottle or a Coke bottle or something like that, imagine in the case of a Coke bottle, if it's a 2-liter bottle, 175 of those together. That's how much blood is in an elephant's body. And so when they get cut, by maybe fighting. So if their tusks hit each other, then they can get a cut like that, and they can bleed from that. Or if they get attacked by a predator, if they are younger, or the thorn scratches their ear, they can get blood from that and it can drip out. And funny enough, there was an elephant that died, which was very sad, near Chitwa the one year. And part of the sort of elephant dying was that, oh, hello, and talking to us, is that the animal obviously was fed upon by hyenas on the first night, and they broke open this section, and a lot of the blood started to drain out. And because of the 350 liters of blood that drained out, it was actually so much moisture that it killed all the grass. Now, I'm sure your parents will not like me for saying this, but if you went and you took water, and let's say you went outside to your garden or to a plant that you have, and you poured 350 liters of water, don't put 350 liters because you'll probably flood half of your neighborhood. But if you were to put a lot of water every single day and you kind of flood a certain section, the vegetation actually can't absorb the water fast enough and it kills it. And so you'll actually kill that area. And that area around the elephant, it took, I mean, even now, the growth that is there is not as much as the surrounding parts, and that is 10 years later, basically. So it takes a long time to recover, and gives you an idea of just how much blood an elephant does have. And yes, so once the skin is broken, they will bleed, but the skin is quite thick. It's about 2 centimeters thick, so it takes a lot to cut it open. Well, Gabriel, you certainly are thinking very clearly, because you're asking about elephant tails and whether they are fly swatters, and whether the elephants use it for that. That is exactly what they're using it for. You'll find with most animals, they have tails that are designed to try and keep insects away. So insects land a lot around the bum area and the genitals, and that's generally because there's some sort of moisture that they can get to. And so they're trying to actually get moisture from the animal. And so you'll find antelopes, elephants, buffalo, lion, leopard. They have these tails that will act as these fly swatters. So they come around and they try and chase those flies away and stop them from landing. And if you look with an elephant particularly, if you look at the length of its tail, and when it slaps its tail forward, it comes to about midway on its body. So just in front of its hips is where the elephant tail will end. And where that ends, if it takes its trunk and pulls its trunk back, it will basically be able to touch the tip of its tail midway at its body. So the tail doesn't have to be any longer, because as the tail, where the tail kind of ends now, the trunk is able to take over and swat flies away from there. So the elephant has got pretty much its entire body covered between the tail and the trunk, and it's why its tail is a certain length, is because there's no real gap then between the tail and the trunk. Some of the other animals, you'll find they don't have life as easy, and I always feel really sorry for animals that lose their tail, because the flies must really drive them mad, and it can't be nice at all to have flies landing on you and you've got no hand. Imagine having no hands to try and chase a fly away and it's landing on your back or something like that. Not very pleasant at all. But they manage. They'll walk through bushes then, and they try and use branches and things like that to just alleviate it a little bit. But if you watch this cow in front, she's doing something really cool. This time of the year, this elephant's diet has changed. So a few weeks ago, they were eating a lot of grass, but particularly the top of the grass. But now, because the grass on top is dying, all the nutrients from this grass is actually sitting underneath the surface of the soil, and so in the root structures of the grass itself. So what she's doing is she's pulling up grass, and then she's hitting it against her chest. So we'll hopefully get her doing it now, although she looks like she's turned to leaves. And she hits it against her chest in order to get rid of the sand. And the reason for that is because sand particles are very rough and are quite damaging to their teeth, and it wears their teeth down much quicker if they weren't doing that. And so this just helps to keep the grass clean, and they can then swallow it down and not have to worry too much about all of the grasses kind of ruining their teeth. So Miss Meadows' class, elephant trunks and their strength and how strong they are is a difficult thing to measure, because it depends on the size of the elephant. So the bigger the elephant, obviously the bigger the muscles are in that trunk, and generally the more they can lift or to move. But if it's a very big bull elephant, I mean, they can move trees that would take 4 or 5 people to move. So they are very strong. It's a lot of muscles in there. You'll see them sometimes, they actually pick up a tree and just move it to be able to feed close to it, which is pretty cool. But the exact strength of each individual elephant will change, and that's the same with people. We're all different in terms of our strength capabilities. Some are stronger than others. Hello. Are you coming to say hello? It's nice to meet you. It was out of nowhere. That elephant changed path completely. It was walking with the rest of them and decided just to come say hello quickly, which is always a wonderful experience. Having an elephant like that just walk past is so, so magical. Like I was saying earlier, it's sometimes good just to stop and watch and listen, which is exactly, obviously, what we were doing. But isn't it amazing also to hear the sounds of these guys as they feed and their ears flapping? I'll keep quiet a little bit so you can hear it, because sometimes you can actually hear the ear hitting the side of the body, which is really cool. You hear her chewing. Isn't that amazing? You could hear her breathing, you could hear her ears slowly flapping. Now, a lot of you might be wondering why the ears flap the way that they do. Some people have heard that elephants, when they're angry, will flap their ears. That's not actually true. An elephant's ear is a very, very, very interesting little design. It's designed to keep this animal nice and cool. Now, if you look at the elephant ear, do you see that there's little kind of ridges on it, which are veins and a network of capillaries that runs through this particular ear? And so what's happening is on the back side of the ear, the front side, the skin is very thick compared to the back side, and that's because as it's walking, it's hitting trees and branches and thorns, and that's scraping and could potentially be tearing at the ear. But on the back side, which is more protected, the skin is very, 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 very thin, and I'm hoping she's going to flap her ear forward for us nicely and we'll be able to see. But that thin skin means that as she flaps her ear, she's pulling air over the back of the ear, and that means that cooler air running over those network of veins is actually cooling the blood in her veins and in her body, and basically cooling her down. So like you might sweat when you're hot, this is one of her ways of just making sure she keeps herself nice and cool. So she flaps, and the hotter it is, the more an elephant will flap its ears to try and stay at a nice temperature. And it's the most effective cooling system of land mammals. It's able to cool these guys by as much as 2 to 3 degrees in just a series of a few flaps, which is really amazing. So it's a very, very cool system that they have. Unfortunately, she's now hidden, so I can't show you the back of her ear, but this one is looking like it's going to be cooperative and show us the back of the ear. Very, very, very cool. All right, unfortunately, kids, it's that time of the day where we're going to finish up things that just for you, but don't worry, you can still watch and you can still ask all of your questions. We certainly won't stop answering them, but we're going to include all of the adults for the rest of the drive. So I hope that you continue watching. And for all the adults that are just joining us now, it's nice to have you on board. We look forward to a successful drive. Remember, if you do want to ask questions like the kids were asking, then use the hashtag WildEarth or @FC on the YouTube chat. It would be most appreciated. What would also be most appreciated is that if you guys would continue to support us. Obviously, bringing you sightings like this daily is not an easy exercise, and so your support is greatly appreciated and needed if we are to continue this. And you can just follow the link that is being posted up now. Oh, it was so nice. That little elephant walk by has made my day, to be honest with you. Having an elephant that close is such a special experience, especially one that's so trusting. Didn't even flap its head at us, didn't bat an eyelid really. Kind of came past, investigated, little trunk, and sort of side-eyed us, but there wasn't really any sort of aggression, there wasn't any sort of nonsense. Just so pleasant when they do that, and they kind of come right past you. It's an awe-inspiring thing to have an elephant that close, and I must be honest, I'm really going to miss it. Tomorrow's my last day here for a while, for now, and so, got to make the most of these little moments like this. It's really very, very cool to have that alien. Like I say, I'm going to miss it thoroughly when I go back home. Not going to have as many elephants walking around, that's for sure. The elephants have actually been fantastic the last few weeks. So many nice herds, and in the last 2-3 days, we've just had so many big herds. It's been really, really epic to see. All right, we might carry on now. I might go and just scratch around, see if I can find any sign of any of our spotted friends, because I want to try and spend as much time with them as I can before I go. And so while I do that, let's send you to andBeyond and Ngala. Sounds like their cats are starting to wake up.
Each other, and I don't think it's going to be too long before the whole pride is going to start moving. So look there, and you see that one female just got up and she's starting to move. And it'll be interesting to see if she's going to carry on or go and lie down again. But if she carries on, imagine the whole pride will then eventually start following her. See, the white young male's also gotten up and he's on his way to go probably lie down with the other ones. Ella 4 and Harry 3. So those youngsters will stay with the mother for at least 1.5 years. So the female would be with the pride her whole life. But because there's a brother and a sister, the brother will eventually leave the pride. Now, that normally starts happening anywhere from around about 1.5 years to 2.5 years, where they'll get pushed out. Now, sometimes there are exceptions to the rules. I mean, like if that young male that we have that's currently with the pride, I mean, he's over close to 4 years old, just over 4 years old, and he's still with the pride. So it's very unusual, but normally from 1.5 years, 2 years, that's when he'll be pushed up. But the females will stick together, unless the pride is so big that eventually they split off. But it might not necessarily just be her. It would be a couple of females that will eventually veer off from the pride. That one that we have in the middle of the screen now, that's the female with the young cubs. So we're just trying to see if when she gets up, if the young cubs will follow. I think they might be suckling at the moment. You'll notice this female's also gotten up and she's also staring down in that direction. Now, as we mentioned earlier, so the wind is basically blowing in from the direction that they're looking in towards them. That's why they're facing that direction. So most likely, if there's going to be a hunting opportunity, that's the direction they want to head into. Because then at least they'll make sure that they're downwind from whatever might be there, but also then they can start using the cover and possibly a little bit longer grass in order to conceal themselves. But I don't think they've seen anything yet. I think they're just basically sitting, lifting up their noses now and again just to test the wind and smell if there's anything. So we'll spend some more time here as we mentioned earlier, I think we'll definitely try the whole afternoon, unless they decide to just go and lie down. But I think if there's an opportunity, it looks like they might be pretty hungry this afternoon. While we do that, we're going to send you across to Taylor with a very interesting bird.
Hello everybody, welcome. My name is Taylor and on camera with me today is Gert. And well, we are having the time of our lives this afternoon. We've had a phenomenal safari. We've seen a lioness, we had slow, and we had some giraffe, but there's one giraffe walking down the road, so we're going to try and catch it. But it seems as though the signals doesn't want to play nice with us today, but that's fine. I'm just going to slowly catch up to this giraffe. It actually could be quite interesting, because this road that we're sort of snaking along is filled with marula trees. It's very pretty in the early morning, and the giraffe is much taller than most of the branches that are overhanging on the road, so I think it's going to be ducking and diving. I'm going to just go around the next bend and then stop, and then we shall have a look at it. But what I would love to do with you one morning, just for a nice little scenic road, scenic shot, is to come down here. So, that's quite nice. Sorry, we're just driving very slowly, as you can see. And this road is appropriately named Marula Road. Can't imagine why. Let me just go up a little bit further. You can see the giraffe. It's just now. Whoa, giraffe. We would like to have a look at you, please. There we go. Isn't that gorgeous? So, we are at Prrivate, which is a wilderness area, literally just on the foot of Hoedspruit. Awesome. As he walks around. Like I said, there's been quite a few giraffe around on either side of this little drainage line. Something keeps catching his attention. He's stopped now and staring in the distance. Whether it's because he's spotted some of the female giraffe that we were looking at earlier, maybe he's heard some elephants, or perhaps he's picked up on the scent of the lions that have been laying about during the heat of the day. There is a bird giving off a little bit of an alarm. Sounds like a francolin. And then, Gert, do you know what else I have seen? Can you see through there? Is that a little steenbok that's come out? Do you see it? We're going to see if we can show you. Oh, there it runs. You can hear the birds panicking. Sorry, there we go. Look at the grass there. Boing! There goes a little small antelope. Now I wonder what's ruffled the feathers of those birds. I'm just trying to see if I can have a look. I might actually, while you watch something, just have a quick look in there with my binoculars. I have all this back. She goes. Oh, hello. Hi, Bex. Sorry, everybody. We're going to try and sort out our technical difficulties, so off you go to look at a ginormous elephant.
She's not loving this, or she does not see it.
So we're just having a look at these lions. So they've all started moving and laid just in the shade off some of these trees, and the thing is, it might just be a way of concealing themselves. Because earlier on, remember we said there was a wildebeest that moved through, but it was quite a while ago, but I think they might have caught wind of something else, or possibly even that wildebeest. Just look at the way that they are steering. You'll see now and then just picking up their heads to sniff the air. But it's so interesting, like all the youngsters were left in the sun at the back, and then they moved into the shade and decided to come and lay down here where they can look at this open area in front of us as well. There's quite a bit of trees off to the right, so it might just be a nice opportunity for them just to scan the area and see if there's anything. But as I said, I definitely think they might have smelled something. That's why they decided to go and lie down there. You'll notice the youngsters are moving from the back, actually coming closer. The thing is, they might not join up too close. Now, and if I can focus on the one just from there on, if you focus the rest that's just left of them, and then the one that's further off and closer towards, or the one that's all by herself, I think she might be the one that will be leading all of this. Now the others have gone and lied down at the back, but she is the one that moved all the way to the front, and she's constantly testing the air, so it might be that this whole thing is instigated by her. You know what, let me quickly use my binoculars. I think I might spot something. I thought I saw some movement in the back, but I can't really see properly now because it just moved into the thicket. But either it was an Impala or maybe a kudu that is probably from where these lines are 200-300 meters off in the tree line. Might be that they could be smelling, could be something else. So while we're going to see how this whole scene plays off, we're going to send you across to andBeyond Phinda, because apparently they have 2 rhino calves.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. And welcome back to this beautiful scene with these white rhinos. It sounds like a great sighting over at Ngala as well with those lions. But we thought we'd come back to you with these rhinos. We actually thought they would come a bit closer to where we are, closer to the road. But those 2 youngsters actually ended up lying down in that long grass. You might every now and then, just on the right-hand side of the mother, you might just see the ear flicking over from left to right. So, obviously they've had a long day of walking and eating, and now they're resting. Miss Meadows, you're asking why these rhinos move their ears all the time. It's literally for hearing. You might, especially if you look at the mother, you might see that each ear moves independently. So she can move the left ear to face backwards, which is what she's doing right now. See, now it's popped forwards again. So they've got amazing hearing, and that's to make up for their not so great eyesight. Their eyes are quite small, they can't see too well, but their hearing and their sense of smell is very, very good. So right now she's just got her ears up and moving them around, just making sure, this grass around here is very dry. So if there's an animal walking through the grass, she'll be able to hear it. And the only time she really has to worry is if it's a lion. But sometimes there could be other rhinos around or anything. So yeah, she's just moving it around to give herself the best opportunity to hear everything around her. And I've just seen off on the right-hand side, just under a tree, there's actually a warthog as well. Marcel's just going to zoom in there. But yeah, it looks like just one warthog all by itself, staring straight at us. There we go, slowly walking towards us. Not every day you get to see these warthogs, so it's very, very nice to have one out in the open. Now with both the warthog and these rhinos, they're both grazers, which means they eat grass. So this particular habitat that we're in right here, this big open grassland, is really perfect for them. Oh, the warthog's coming quite close. They're definitely one of the most comical of the animals to watch, I think. And now he's done a U-turn and he's walking away from us. Yeah, so with this mother rhino, she's got her calf, and remember I was explaining a bit earlier how that other calf with her has kind of been adopted for a little while. That's called a satellite calf. She's got those two calves lying down on her right. So also what I started talking about just now is the little darker patches on these rhinos. Well, you can just see it on the mother at the moment. So especially today, it's been quite a hot day. I think around late morning, maybe lunchtime, they were down in a nice big pool of mud, wallowing to help them just cool down and help them, that also puts a bit of a protective layer over their skin to stop little biting insects. But while it's still light and before it gets too cool in the evening, we are going to carry on with our drive. I hope you've enjoyed these rhinos. And we're going to send you across to Tswalu, where they've got another animal trying to escape from the sun.
Tswalu Kalahari, but I'm sure it will all be back soon. In the meantime, just an update of what's happening with these lions. So you'll see a few of them. A few of the bigger females have gone and laid down in the shade, but there's a youngster that has creeped up now. Now, my biggest thing is often when the youngsters get too excited, they might spoil a hunt. And this one is venturing off quite far in the sun, and very exposed. So if there is anything there, of course they'll see this youngster. And often, especially in the daytime, if the youngsters start joining for hunts, especially at that young age, they do spoil quite a bit of the hunt. Just want to see if it's a young male or young female that's moving there. But notice the difference in experience. I mean, let's just go back to those females that's just in the shade there. Look at how experienced they are. They know that by laying down in the shade, they break out their outline. They're very well concealed. And if something had to look into the sun, it would barely be able to see them. Versus this youngster that's off to our right now. So we'll just try and focus on this one here. You'll notice this youngster, unlike the more experienced females out in the open and the sunlight on them. So that's why they're not really good hunters when they're young. And even with a big pride like this, it's probably going to be a success rate of 40%. So imagine out of 100 attempts, 40 times they'll be successful. But if these youngsters carry on the way that they're doing now, they might even spoil this hunt now as we speak. Because there's definitely something here. They've showed a lot of interest. Normally with lions, they only start moving once it starts getting a bit dark. But for them moving now, it either tells us they're hungry or there's possibly an opportunity for them. And you'll notice every time they move, it's not like they just move and they go and their heads are down. They're basically moving with a agenda, going, sitting, okay, scanning, smelling. All right, what's the next step? Possibly what they'll do from there is move a little bit closer. Now, we can't see anything from where we are now, and that might be because there's quite a few trees on our way, and also we've decided to stop quite a bit of a distance away from these lions, because the last thing we want to do is interfere with any of their behavior. So we're trying to just be on the sideline here and watch them. If they start moving, we'll give them an opportunity, and unless they stop again, we won't move. So we want to try our absolute best to give them the best possible chance, if there's anything, to be successful. But I think that youngster might spoil it. Oh, there's two now that's moved straight into the sun in front of them. Oh, and have a look at that one that's way in the open, quite a far ahead of them. I think that one might have picked up on the same scent that the other ones were smelling. But of course, being very curious and inexperienced, want to go and have a look and see what it is. But you'll notice there's no cover. The grass is really short, and walking straight to where the scent is coming from. And it does look like it might be a young female. And what's interesting about it, I mean, all of this is a learning curve, because eventually, let's say now in a year or two's time, she would have honed quite a bit of the skills, and then she'll be able to contribute quite a bit when the pride hunts. But I think for now, I think she might spoil it. And I think let's stay on that youngster, because if there would be something there, often they can't help themselves and they start running from quite a bit of a distance away. Let's just look at the whole body language. Maybe we'll see the shoulders crouching down. Maybe use a little bit of cover. You can see the tail's not moving a lot, so that's a good sign that there might be something in front of her. So we'll definitely see what the rest of the pride is going to do, and let's also see what this youngster is going to do. Is she going to decide to carry on, or what's going to be next? What's the next plan? I think while we do that, we're going to send you across to Steve for some Wildebeest.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to what actually is Simbambili Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the other side of the road from Djuma. My name's Steve, joined by Davasito. We've been trying to find some signal, it seems, and we finally found some up here on this open clearing. I don't know what it's called on Simbambili, but it's a wonderful open area, and it is home to its own herd of gnus. Very special, very nice to see. You've got a few different generations. There's a big male at the back, then a sub-adult in the middle, and then a youngster. Oh, not a sub-adult, looks like a female in the middle. You can see the size difference between her and the male on the left, and on the right is a yearling. I love how they walk, that upward down shaking of the neck, their feet constantly moving. Migration specialists, these animals are designed for walking long distances. The boy is busy doing his thing. Darby is busy scratching. There's a typical way of knowing it's a bull as well. There's a behavior he's exhibiting now is one of territorial behavior. Male wildebeest become what we call sedentary. Now, wildebeest, for the most part, always migrate, but here in the Kruger National Park, the migration was curtailed a very long time ago. The erection of a veterinary fence on the sort of running north-south, preventing what they thought at the time, wildlife mixing with domesticated livestock for disease, and that cut off a natural migration route that occurred in South Africa. So now what happens is the male wildebeest stay in an area, and the females kind of just move between suitable areas, looking for obviously suitable food and water. And obviously the male, he tries to hold on to the best territory. You're going to keep with them because this is a great situation to be in an open area. Now, if you've ever watched any footage of the migration, and you see those wildebeest, how they move in vast numbers over a very large distance. And what happens every single day as that herd moves, that is a different type of gnu. It's called the white-bearded. This is the blue or the brindled gnu. But what still happens is that the males following those herds will stop every now and again and do a territorial marking, a small little territory, in anticipation for holding the females, and then the females leave the next day, and then he ends up staying there for a week or so, and then realizing, everybody's gone, and then he follows again. So that natural behavior of forming a territory, best sort of available resources, let's keep going, because the best available resources will attract the female. But when you're a migrating species and the wildebeest follow the rainfall, it's very hard to keep the females in one area. But what happens now in the Kruger, because of many changes, you'll find these male wildebeest becoming sedentary and staying in the same area, probably from the day he becomes dominant until the day he dies. So, there he's doing it again. So, what he's doing now, he's got lots of glands. He's got glands between his feet, pedal glands. He's also got preorbital glands just below the eye, and he rubs himself. Now he's going to poo. He might roll in his poo now. Wildebeest have got two very important sort of senses that they utilize. Their eyesight, so visual. That's why you'll often find a male wildebeest standing side on to competition to show how big he is. And the most important is olfactory, so that is the sense of smell. So he's got glands in his feet, underneath his eyes, and he also defecates and urinates. And he will roll in that to cover himself in his scent. And then he'll roll and will rub that onto the females, rub that onto anything he possibly can. And he's got these small little territorial posts around his territory that he will visit every single day. Another good way to identify that he's male, have a look at the ears. Can you see that the ears don't extend further than the horns? The horns go a little bit further out. So bear in mind, both male and female wildebeest have horns. There's a monkey. When you look at a female, her horns are actually as narrow as the ears are. So obviously they're not as wide. But the behavior is often the best way to identify male versus female. It's one of those strategies in the wildebeest sort of populations that allow males to stay with the herd a lot longer. Because if they don't behave like a male, they get tolerated and they slip under the radar. And they can stay in those massive herds that are so quintessential to the migration in the Mara. Safety in numbers. The wildebeest on its own does face a lot more dangers than one in a massive group. Okay, very good. Well, let's see if we can move up a little bit more. The wonderful thing about these open areas is they afford you a really nice view of animals moving through. And this is the habitat choice that wildebeest pick. Impalas will come out into these open areas in the... We're not going to be able to go down there, Darby. We had no signal there, so we'll just stop here. Thankfully we got a nice long range zoom. Let's see if we can get some more wonderful wildebeest behavior. Wildebeest love these open areas. It's not just because of the grass is here, but they like to be able to see their predator approaching. Dense bush is what's happened in around these parts of the world. Densification of the vegetation has happened over the last 60 years, and so we've seen changes in the dynamics of many of the animal species. Increases in impala number, decreases in zebra and wildebeest. Wonderful African scene. They are probably off to go and drink. There was a little mud wallow there, wasn't there? Little pan. I don't really know this area very well. Small little herd of wildebeest. Fantastic. When I last left, there was enormous numbers of wildebeest on the open areas around Djuma. And they've still been around. I haven't seen them, Darby. I saw one wildebeest yesterday. When I left, there was, I think, 36. Moved off to greener pastures, perhaps. Well, it seems like Steve's got a little comms issue, but that's okay. We'll sort that out. As you can see, there's some nice, clean leopard tracks that are down the road. Now, before we get into the leopard tracks, do need to say thank you very, very, very much, Alan Dow, for sponsoring today's drive. It really is amazing that you guys have, and it's incredible because Alan's actually sponsored two drives and has dedicated it to his sister Beverly, and Alan comes from the United States of America in Massachusetts, and I hope that you guys will enjoy the afternoon. Sorry that we didn't send our dedication out a little bit earlier when we started the drive, but like I say, hopefully you'll enjoy it, and hopefully we'll be able to find the things that you guys want to see. Let us know what animals you would most like to see, and we'll see if we can make a plan. Now, I think this is tracks for Thandi and the cub. Now I'll show you why I think it's for the two of them, and they are actually the fresher tracks. These are not from when I found them this morning. I drove here, so the fact that they're on top of vehicle tracks means that they're not from now. I'm just going to grab a stick quickly so that I can point out a few little things, but essentially you've got the leopardess moving down the road. So this is her footprint over here. You'll notice that you've got the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4, back of the pad, 1, 2, 3, all right, and this would be her back foot, so you can see quite long versus its width, so it's got an oval shape to it. If you move forward, you'll notice this is her front foot that you've got here. This is much more round in shape, so width and length are almost identical, which is actually not a word that you should be saying, because something can't be almost identical. It's either identical or it's almost, but they're very relative, is probably a better way to put that. So that's front foot, back foot, and then this is the little cub track over here. You can see this little boy, his foot is starting to get bigger, so this is his little back pad over here, and his toes going forward. Now, like I say, this particular track is on top of the vehicle tracks from this morning. The fact that it's cut by vehicles is me. I drove over this right now. There's also a poo in the road here that's hasn't dried properly just yet. So we're going to try and see if we can maybe find these two. I'm not sure where Tlalamba went from this area, but you never know. It doesn't look like she followed the two of them. It looks like just the two going down. So we'll just see where this goes and whether or not she's maybe using a different den site. I suspect that this cub is being taken to meat rather than being to den sites these days. I had this theory already, and PK, did I discuss this with you? I'm not sure if I did. Maybe it was David. But we're chatting about the fact that the other day when we found Thandi with the den in the Mulawati, when she had that kill, I think she actually went to go and fetch the cub to go and take it to the kill. So she made the kill. The cub was all the way in Torchwood. She had to march all the way back, go fetch it, and she moved it to the Mulawati to get the little cub close to the kill. But by the time she returned to the kill, I suspect that Ribbon had already found that kill, and so the danger element of taking the cub to the carcass was too high, and so left it down in the Mulawati and suckled the cub. But in this case, maybe the hyenas didn't find it, and that's why the cub was very, very close to the kill and moving around with Thandi at the kill site rather than being in a den itself. So yeah, I think that's, for me, probably what is happening, is that this little one is starting to get its first taste of meat. It's at the age now where it should be. I mean, that cub, quite frankly, looks to me to be a little bit older than 3 months. I would say closer to 4 months. Now, 3.5 would be somewhere where I would expect that cub to be. So, yeah, big and strong already, and as we know, full of beans. So I'm just trying to see where she went. Sorry, excuse me, got something caught in my throat. So she seems like she's just gone straight down central, which is kind of what I expected from her. If she's going to take the cub anywhere, she's going to take it back to areas that she knows and has used before. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to find her in a normal spot somewhere along this area. There's the Ngala Road drainage, there's the Mulawati, so there's a few different places we can check. Alright, we're going to try and track them. It's obviously quite tricky tracking from a vehicle, but, you know, we're going to figure it out. Just trying to see which tracks are the fresh ones, because yesterday this particular road was a hive of activity. There was a lot of male leopard, female leopard tracks all throughout this area, which made tracking quite tricky. And so now he's kind of come back the way that all of that traffic went yesterday, the opposite way. And I'm just trying to work out which ones are actually the right ones, and just make sure that the tracks that I'm on are the ones where she's walking with the cub, and that we're not on the wrong set of female tracks. So just got to check very, very carefully and see lots and lots, like I say, of female tracks. But you see now, okay, there's a track there that looks like it's over the vehicle tracks. I thought for a second they'd maybe cut off. I just want to drive nice and slow as we go. I can't remember if I did this road this morning. Maybe I did. Did we do this road this morning, BK? Are you sure? No, we didn't, you're right. Did this road this afternoon, so I don't know if anyone actually drove this road. But they're definitely on top of my vehicle tracks from this morning, so they definitely came this way. Alright, while I have a little look around here, see what's going on, and just try and figure out exactly what's happening, let's send you across to andBeyond in Ngala. I believe their lines are up and moving.
And there you'll see there's a line. There's just on the other side, there's quite a few Impala. So we'll just try and be quiet and see what happens here. The rest of the pride, there's some of the youngsters that have moved off to the right, probably to distract these Impala. Let's just have a look at the rest of the pride. If they start moving, so that lioness has just started chasing those Impala. We'll focus on her. Now, we don't want to just get too excited and start moving in that direction. We just want to give them a chance, as we mentioned earlier. Now, it does look like the whole pride has actually surrounded where this herd of Impala was earlier. So we just want to give it some more time. Even the young male is starting to get involved. So he's just off here to the right through the thickets. So I'm going to try and just show you where he is now. So as I said, there is quite a bit of thickets around, but you'll just see him behind that. So So that's the young male that has the sore leg, but it seems like he is able to keep up with the pride. So there he goes. You can see he's already putting a lot more pressure on his back leg. And of course, being a male, he doesn't want to miss out on anything. Okay, there's an Impala coming. So right in front of us there. I just hear some of these Impala alarm calling, but basically there's lines on the left, on the right, behind them and in front of them. And be interesting to see what's going to happen now. Andra, they'll start getting involved. Oh, look, the Impala running straight towards this male. No, he's just basically waiting. Now, the other lioness with the youngsters are also just behind us. So, Andra, they can start anywhere from around about a year onwards, where they won't be successful. However, they will definitely be part of it. So sometimes they'll go and distract the animals while the more experienced females would move around or males would move around and then hunt from a different angle. So they could from a very young age, but for them to be successful only from a year and a half onwards, before they really become good hunters within the pride. But of course, once a female gets to like 5-6 years, that's when she's really almost in a prime of her life, and that's also when she's probably going to be she'll have all this experience and all this knowledge of how to hunt properly. There's Impala right in front of us right now. So just from where you are there, just go right, a little bit right. There we go. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah, I think those Impala might have gone through, but the rest of the pride all surrounding this thicket, and it looks like the Impala in the middle there. So basically what we're trying to do now is we're just trying to listen. You might even hear the snorting of the Impala in the distance. It's very faint because we are a little bit further away from the line. So we don't just necessarily want to get too close. As we said, we don't want to spoil any hunt. But so all we do is we just sit here from the back and we're just listening out. Now, basically, as we mentioned earlier, the lions are surrounding. We can hear the Impala's alarm calling back. And if there is anything that's been caught, all these lions will run in that direction to try and get as much as they possibly can. So with them still spread around like this, it tells us that they're probably still trying to see if they can catch anything. There's another lioness that just joined off to the right there. And you'll see her now. So she's also looping around. And that's the mother with the two youngsters. So she's probably hit them somewhere in quite a thick strand of grass, or maybe in the tree line off to the right from where she is now. Oh, the cubs behind her. Oh, I couldn't even see. Like the two cubs are actually behind her. So they're also taking part of the hunt. And I think because it's such an open area, she can't really leave them anywhere. Because literally the whole pride is helping to hunt here. From the ones that are a year old all the way up to, of course, the oldest lioness. And if you notice this right here, you see where that young white male is? Look at the impala in between us, or in between where that one is, and the rest. Hardly the impala can, and they can also see the lions. But now what's happened is because the lions, or some of the lions, have moved in the open, the impala spotted them, but they don't know where the rest of the pride is. So the impala, instead of just running away and running into lions, they just alarm calling, almost telling the lions, I know you're here, you're not going to surprise me. But meantime, while that's all happening, the lions are maneuvering around, trying to outmaneuver these impala. So you'll see, and you'll possibly hear the alarm calls in the distance, but basically these lions are trying to circle these impala, which are currently in the middle. I think all of them have moved around, so we'll just give it another 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll start just creeping a bit close, see if we can still spot them from a distance. Belinda, it is actually, like for lions it's a lot easier to hunt, or not a lot, but it is fairly easier to hunt at night, because then at least they're a little bit more concealed. However, with them being so opportunistic, I think, and also having so many members in this pride as we speak, I think the hunger is actually driving the pride to hunt at this time of the day as well. And I think what they were relying on is the fact that the wind was blowing from the impala towards them. There was a bit of cover, and they were actually just hoping to probably just surprise them. But then, of course, the impala spotted them. And I think it might have been one of the youngsters that they spotted. You can see these two are actually looking at a lion that's now moving. We'll be able to see them soon. A little bit left from that, Owen. A little bit more. I think you see there's a fallen over tree in the distance. Yeah, so right of that, at the base of the tree, you'll notice there's a lioness. And there's another one that's actually starting to run off to the right. But let's just spend some time. Basically what we're trying to do now is just listen out. Like that lion, we're just going to cup our ears and listen for any other movements. Because often if they do catch something, there's no tail manners. You hear growling, snarling, and of course a lot of noise is going to come from these lions. See the one disappearing. I can still see. So, and I'm going to try and see if I can point you out to where this. So we're going to spend some time, and definitely if there's any update on this, we'll let everyone know. But while we do that, let's send you across to andBeyond Phinda, because apparently they have some lion cubs.
Welcome back, everyone. So we have something pretty special, and before I show you what it is, this is only the second time that I'm seeing this. So, well, not this, but these particular ones. So let me show you what we found here. If you've zoomed in all the way already there, you might be able to see 5 very small little lion cubs sitting right at the top of that hill, right on top of those rocks. So as I say, this is only the second time that I've actually seen these cubs. They're in the region of about 3 months old, quite similar to those cheetah cubs we saw this morning actually. They're in the region of about 3 months old and still very, very small. Striped horse, that is a very good question. If a lion's eye color changes between a cub and from when it's a cub to when it's an adult, and no, not that I've noticed. They start off a very golden brown color, and even when they're adults, they are very golden brown. It's a really beautiful color, actually. But thank you for the questions. Striped horse are up and about, just starting to kind of get moving. But you can imagine now how those rocks out in the sun have been. The sun will be going down relatively soon. Rocks are nice for those. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably thinking, where are the adults? Where are the lionesses? I would think they're probably still here. With cubs being so young like this, they're still very reliant on the mothers. There's 2 mothers, by the way, of these cubs. We think it's 3 for one mother and 2 for the other. And they could be there. They could be somewhere close by, maybe just over the rocks there. Or what might have happened is that they might have even left these rocks, left these lions, and gone off hunting. But I think, just from experience, I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would leave the cubs right out in the open like that. So I would guess those lionesses are probably still there. This is really so amazing. You can imagine how these 5 little cubs have all these rocks, almost as like a jungle gym to play with in their garden. Hi, Leandri. The amount of cubs that will make it through to adulthood, it really depends. There could be, in some litters, there could be none that make it through. But most of the time, like let's say this litter of 3 and 2, I'm sure, maybe along the line, 1 or 2 of them might end up dying of different. There's quite a few different ways it could happen. But most of these lions will make it through to adulthood. Their biggest threat up in an area like that would, if the mothers leave them, would maybe be things like leopard or even a really big snake like a python. Or the other biggest threat for them is other male lions that aren't their father. Other male lions could be a threat to these cubs as well. So we've parked probably about, at a guess, 200 meters or so away. So the camera we're using is really at full zoom here. I hope the picture is stable enough. We are both trying to keep as still as possible in the car. And I hope you've got a perfect view. It's really nicely in the afternoon sun. Hi, Toby, only 5 years old. Thank you for watching. Lions, it depends a lot on the dynamics on the whole reserve, but they might get moved to a different reserve, but often females will end up staying within. I hope that answers your question. Looks like they're all settling down a bit. All just lying down, enjoying the warmth in that rock. This has been an incredible Ngala We've got these beautiful lion cubs here. And even those cheetah this morning as well. So it's really been an incredible day. We're going to stay here for a little bit longer and see if there are any updates, maybe if the lionesses come down. For now, we're going to send you across to Tswalu.
We've had a fairly quiet afternoon so far. We did get a report from one of our field patrols of a gemsbuck bull that looks like it had been killed in a fight. So I'm not quite sure what the location is, but I'll try to follow up with them and just see if we can actually see that, because that may be interesting in terms of scavengers or predators or something like that. But we'll see if we can find it, and then we'll spend a bit of time there later. But I'm not giving up on the aardvark just yet, and that's why we're using all these dune crests, just to stop and scan. What was it? I saw something now. No. I'm imagining things. I'm seeing what I want to see now. Every bush becomes an aardvark catcher. So this time of day, with this nice backlighting, these aardvark stand out when you can actually see it, when you can actually find one. And that's why we're not going to spend too much time down in the bottom of these valleys, because then it becomes very difficult to actually pick them up from low down. This is always the fun part of the search. Yeah. As I'm scanning just randomly, poor old Jandre doesn't have to follow me there, but I've got a gemsbuck, I've got a Wildebeest, all miles away. A steenbuck tucked away. When you're on safari, a pair of binoculars is an absolutely invaluable aid. Something I'd always recommend. It really enhances the experience. Also, you can scan over an area multiple times and see different things. An aardvark is probably, it's probably standing when he's walking at maybe 45 centimeters, give or take. I could probably have to catch one and see, take a ruler to it and see how tall he is. But they're not very tall animals, and with all this bush that you're seeing out here, you could glance over it even with a pair of binoculars and miss it very, very easily, and scan back there seconds later. I got a group of bat-head foxes. Actually out foraging now. I'm going to see if I can relocate them for you. They are pretty difficult. Jandre, this is going to be a tough one for you, my friend. Okay, range is about 600 yards, and they're moving from right to left. Yeah, okay, wait, go to your right. A little bit more. Okay, there. Okay, now zoom in there. You get go right where you are. Go right a little bit, fraction. Oh, you got them. Oh, well done. Now, how's that for camera work, everyone? That's why we keep Jandre around. That incredible skill behind the lens. Wow, look at they're all foraging together now. So that'll be a family group. And like I was saying earlier, that distance, I'm guesstimating is probably about 600 or 700 yards away from us. So they are completely oblivious to our presence, which actually enables us to watch what they're doing without any kind of impact whatsoever there. So now they're going after insects under the ground. So you'll notice how they walk with their head down a little bit, listening, and then they'll stop, and then they'll start digging a little bit. Dink. Yeah, that is beautiful to watch. So that one at the back, that's almost what an aardvark would look like from a distance if we're scanning for aardvark. That's the kind of shape you're looking for, that little rounded back. Chris, we certainly do have pangolin, and we've actually got tracking teams out as we're speaking, trying to locate tracks. It is very, very difficult. It's a vast landscape, massive areas, and we've had a number of dry seasons the past couple of rainfall years, and the pangolins have taken quite a knock on that. We don't know what the exact impact of these successive dry years exactly has been on the population, but we think it would have had quite an impact. Like the ambient temperatures have been so high, low rainfall, not a lot of food around for them, and again, that would be a perfectly natural cycle, but we don't know what the impact of that cycle is on the long term on a population. We've got a really, really excellent researcher that's been doing a lot of work here for the past 5 years, Wendy Pineno. She's just busy finishing up with her PhD on aardvark, and really looking at the physiology of these animals and the impact of climate change on them. So we're waiting with bated breath for that to be accepted and be published soon. But it's not just pangolins. I mean, pangolins is one example of a species that will be impacted by climate change. In fact, I'd be surprised if there's any species anywhere that one could honestly say, well, it would never be impacted by climate change. I think the key question related to this is, what is the long-term impact of it? Because we know seasonal changes are absolutely normal. You can get very, very dry seasons, you can get very wet seasons, but those are like these little blips on a radar. We want to know what is the, over a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 year cycle, what is the impact on these things? And we are still a long way from figuring those out. So while Jandra and I ponder that deep question, I think head back to Ngala and see what's up with the lions.
So, unfortunately, they weren't successful with those Impala, but the whole pride just came down into this bit of a denser area, and you can see there's one of the young females is very intrigued by the cubs. You can see how she's just trying to touch them, and you can just hear one of the cubs didn't like that too much, and the mother's probably going to get involved soon. What I'm going to try and do, though, I think in terms of your own, I'm going to go slightly back into that gap for you. Okay, just hold on. Just bear with me 2 seconds. How's that? Is it? Okay. Just want to try and see if there. So you'll see it's pretty dense where they decided to lie down, but the sure here will still get a bit of a view. You can see very curious with these youngsters. But of course the mom's not too far off, and she'll just make sure that they don't get too rough with the youngsters. You can see this little one doesn't back down. Julie from Singapore, you can get melanistic lions, but it's not something that's been, according to my knowledge, I think there were 1 or 2 recordings a while ago, but according to my knowledge, I've never heard about one, and I've never seen one, especially in the wild. I don't know, maybe if some of our viewers know about any form of melanistic lion that they've seen, but I just know from my personal experience, and also from, I think I researched it a while ago, I can't remember, it was quite a few years ago, and I do remember that there weren't any in the wild, but there is a chance that it could happen. I mean, the possibility is always there, like you can get albino lions or leucistic lions, you will be able to get a melanistic lion, but I just don't know if there's any current records of anyone. So I just wanted to change the focus from where these lions are and just show everyone the sunset this evening. Now, you'll notice the colors, there's quite a bit of like this golden color, but look at the clouds and some of the taller trees that we can see on our western side, but have a look at that for a sunset. And I can just imagine as soon as that sun goes down even further, you can imagine that clouds, you can already see there's a little touch of a golden rim on the edges. Imagine as soon as it goes down and that whole bank of clouds get this like red, bright red color. And I think what we'll do from here as well is, it looks like these lions lie down in quite a dense area, and especially if they carry on moving the way that they're moving now, we won't be able to see them properly. So what I think from here on is eventually we'll start heading into the direction of the sun and possibly go past some of the waterholes and see if there's maybe any surprises of leopards going down to drink. But I think while we're going to go and try to see if we can find any tracks of leopard and leave these lions, because I think they might just eventually start heading off and look out for any possible hunting opportunities, but who knows what they end up doing in the evening, maybe even tomorrow morning. We'll leave that up to Eric to find out for us, but I think in the meanwhile we're going to send you across to Tristan to get an update of his tracking.
One somewhere around Ngala Road, and I'm not sure if it's her track or if it's for another female that comes out on Vulture's Nest and heads more west towards the Mulawati, or if it is Tandi and like I say, she dropped the cub and carried on. So I'm just double checking a few roads around before I head round. But I mean, the track looks fairly fresh. It's just no one drove there since yesterday morning. It's on top of some of the elephant tracks from that area, which I'm just trying to think when I had elephants. When did we have elephants? This morning, BK. Did we have elephants in the Mulawati this morning? I can't remember. Or was it yesterday morning? Oh, so many Ellie sightings. It's tricky to remember which ones. But I think it was yesterday morning that we had... no, wait, here we go. I found the tracks for a leopardess. Oh, now you see, now it's getting complicated because now we're in amongst the Shadulu Mulawati fiasco from yesterday and mess. So I'm trying to work out now which ones are the right ones and which ones aren't. I walked here yesterday, so I'm just trying to see, and I was naughty because by the looks of things I didn't squash some of the tracks, which is not good. Normally when I walk on places I try and walk on the track itself so that if I come the next day and drive, or if anybody drives that road, they know that it's not they're not fresh tracks. As soon as they see my footprint on top or somebody's footprint on top, then they know this particular individual has been tracked already, and so not worth following up on, unless you know the person is still actively tracking it. But these ones looks like yesterday's and I just forgot to stand on them, so naughty me. Just want to double check. I do apologize that I kind of got my head out the side of the car. The only tracks when you drive is like this. And like I say, it's a bit of a mess here because there's just so many tracks going up, down, up, down, up, down from yesterday's whole movement that we had. Alright, so now those are yesterday's. Okay, let's go around. We're going to check the Mulawati, just see if maybe Tandi went down, or if it's maybe Shidulu or Klalamba. I don't know. There was also a report of another leopard crossing in from Triple M, but Steve says he's there and he can't see any sign of a leopard crossing. So I don't know if somebody physically saw it, or if it was, you know, just tracks and they've been driven over, or what the situation is. But yeah, lots of kind of potential promise in the area, so hopefully we'll get lucky and we'll find something somewhere here. In the meantime, though, talking about Steve, let's send you across to him so he can give you an update on what he's found or hasn't found on the western side of Djuma.
Thanks, Tristan. I hope you've only been discussing good things. We are back from Simbimbile, everybody. We are back onto Djuma. There's reports that a leopard crossed in. I've been trying to pick up on some tracks, and so far, none. So we're going to slowly head down this road. This is a very common and popular route for our lion pride, the Nkuhumas, to come in on, as well as a couple of our male leopards to walk on, including the female leopard Shidulu. And the buffalo herd has moved through here sometime during the day. I think Tristan was with him earlier. Walk down there, Hukumuri, if it is Hukumuri. Well, any of our leopards, they love when they find a pile of fresh buffalo dung to roll in it. Oh, look at those two battaliers. Is that all right, Avi? Oh, some wonderful sky. Two battalier eagles. Now, we had a battalier juvenile and a tawny and a vulture the other day in this exact tree, but we were unable to find whatever it is that they were feeding on. Then that afternoon, Tristan found a very fat ribbon, who's the matriarch of the Djuma clan, leaving this area full of blood and full of meat. And now these battaliers are back. Now, battaliers are normally a very good indicator of some form of carrion. Those of you who've never heard of carrion before, it's generally a rotten meat or dead animal. Roadkill, for example, is regarded as carrion, or anything that's left behind. They're very good at scavenging and picking that sort of stuff up. Also like to eat snakes. But there you can see the one on the right has got its beak right into the preen gland, which is there just above the tail. Majority of birds have got preen glands on their bottom, full of oil, and then pretty much every morning and every evening they'll go through a grooming session, and they'll put that oil on their beak, and they'll reapply the oil to the feathers. The oil's got a microbiological sort of effect, and also it helps to keep the feathers dry. I've heard the term like water off a duck's back. It's because of the oil. So that's what keeps them insulated, keeps the water from getting in. Obviously, there's not a big problem of oil this time of year, but there is mites and all sorts of little critters that can affect them, and the oil also helps in that. A very nice example here of a male and a female. The male on top, you can see he's wearing the white on the shoulder, which is the waistband, and the female at the back, who's got the white low down, is the miniskirt, as well as the bikini top. So the female's got 2 bits of white on the outer wing, and the male just 1. Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to move on from our battaliers and send you over to Taylor McCurdy at Prrivate, who I believe has found some lions.
Hello again, everybody. Sorry we've been gone for so long. We've been desperately trying to show you possibly one of the best lion and hyena interactions I've had in my life. It was incredible. So we've got some lionesses, and you can see how alert they are. I know they're sitting up in the grass now, but that wasn't the case just a moment ago. Essentially, the lionesses that we saw this morning disappeared and went and rested underneath a tree. And then they started getting moving. And we were down at the dam just watching some elephants, and the next minute we heard hyenas whooping in the distance. And then we heard lions fighting with the hyenas. So what we did was we raced as quick as we could to get into this area. We weren't that far, we were just a couple of 100 meters away, but the roads were very windy. And we drove straight into this thicket. And the hyenas and lions weren't actually having a physical fight in the sense, but there was a lot of arguing. I'm going to reverse. I think there's some hyenas behind us, so I'm just going to try and go backwards. So just excuse the movement. We're going to see if we can move. We've just lost visual of the lions. I'm going to give this a bash, but that was just honestly unbelievable. I'm hoping that we'll be able to show you some of the stuff we got a little bit later, which will be exciting. So please keep an eye out on WildEarth's and Eco Training social media, and we shall see. There's a hyena behind you. Okay, so we're going to show you a hyena. You can see, look, the sun is just dropping behind the horizon. It's kind of the last of the golden glow. And this area just reminds me so much of the Sabi sand. It's so productive. Lots of lions. There are lots of leopards. So we did see one earlier too. And look at the hyena. You can see how he had its tail all curled up. Not impressed at all. And the lions are just in the distance, just a stone throw away, keeping a very, very close eye on the hyenas. So we're not very far away from the hyena den. The hyena den is also maybe 200 meters from where we are right now, maybe 300 meters at a push. And where those lions went to lay up this morning after we saw them, they were basically headed straight in that direction. I don't think necessarily searching for the hyenas, but there was lots of impala. We saw some giraffe, there were kudu, there was a whole bunch of animals around. And we know that they were looking for something to eat this morning. So I think they got in that direction. And the adults, which normally just lay up not too far away from the den, probably sensed them, and that's what sparked the interaction that they had. My heart is racing right now. That was insane. We will try and show you some of it, or at least we had not now, because that would disturb both species when we move away from here. Kind of the hyenas are happy that this is very, I think the hyenas are happy with the work that they've done. No one got hurt. Lions seem to be okay. My goodness, we're not even far from the eco training camp. I can't imagine what those sounds must have sounded like echoing down into the valley. This is very special to see. See that lioness just smelling the air every now and then, picking up some scents. And a slight breeze. So who knows what to get up to. Wow. That was honestly just madness. So all 5 lions are here, the 5 that we saw. So there must have been the 6th one. We saw down at the drainage line near Leopard Dam. I don't know why she's on her own though, because I'm pretty sure she's a part of the same pride. She had a very full belly too, so I don't know if she maybe got a meal and the others didn't. Well, I did hear rumors about one female having mated with some males, and it should be about this time too. So, but I didn't get a good look at her. She slunk into the dense Tamboti thicket before view. She's in final control. I apologize. I'm just letting you know. I think I'm having some audio issues with my earpiece. In case I'm not listening to you, I promise I'm not ignoring you. Now, Data, an interesting question about if hyenas will roll in lion feces to deter them. I've never seen a hyena doing that. The hyenas kind of roll in all sorts of different types of things. Pretty much, if you have a dog, for an example, they will roll in cow dung, they will roll in bird feces, they will literally roll in anything. You know, some say that it is to try and hide their scent. I don't think that they would roll in lion dung to try and repel the lions. Hyenas are very brave animals, and they're exceptionally intelligent too. So they know not to get too close. You know, one lioness quite easily handle herself against a couple hyena. And 1-for-1, the lions will win every single time. However, in this situation, those hyenas are very clever, and they know not to get too close because there's more of them. Like I said, only 3 or 4 hyenas here. 2 of them are young. But they can still growl, they can still make a lot of noise. And if these 3 big lionesses that are here charge towards that small group of hyena, you know, they're going to find themselves in a bit of trouble. Hyenas are more wary of the big males. Obviously, male lions are much stronger than the girls. But that would have been quite crazy if they did make contact. Right, it seems as though Steve was doing exactly what I was doing earlier and racing through the reserve. I don't know where he's off to.
I am indeed. Thanks, Taylor. Well, Taylor knows his property quite well. She used to work with us, yeah? I'm on Vlemondskat heading towards the Moati to assist Tristan with some tracks of a female leopard that have crossed towards this side of the river. So the radio that we utilize here is a very useful tool when it comes to game driving. It allows you to maximize your area of search, and you can communicate, especially when it comes to tracking. You can check a road, you can check this way, and it can help you quite a lot. But a couple Impala boys over here getting a bit frisky. The rutting season is over, but there's still testosterone in them. You can see that they've all got a very equal space between them, and you'll notice if one gets near the other one, there'll be a bit of a head shake, a bit of something, a bit of jostling. Some youngsters in there, they don't really play much part, but they're hanging out with the bigger boys so as to build up their condition, learn how to be a male Impala, so that when the rutting season comes round and they're fully mature, they know what to do. Notice how all of them are there's a very specific space between them. Being annoyed by the flies right now. And those 2 boys on the left doing a little bit of practice. And a scratch. There seems to be a lot of displacement going on right now. No one really wants to fight each other. They just, no, I'm too busy with the fly. Let me just scratch and lick myself and twitch a little bit. The bigger boys at the back. There we go. You see the guy lifted his head? That's the prelude to the roaring that they do, that very loud growling sound that Impala do. And the licking of the lips is very characteristic of this time of year. The 2 guys on the right are posturing Derby. They're going to have a little bit of a tussle. That guy's moved off. He decided he's not happy. The other 2 now are going to have a little go. There's nothing serious in this, though. Impalas pretend to fight, and then they look off towards some unseen leopard, as if, you know, it's sort of tricks and tactics my brother used to do whenever we used to fight, and he started losing. He'd always do something to try and distract me, being the bigger brother, you know. Lots of tricks. Impala do that all the time. They're about to fight, and next thing they look off into the bushes as if there's something there. A lot of displacement. There we go. Okay, great. I'm glad Nicky's managed to stop to show you the sunset. Let's go over to him and enjoy.
So how beautiful is this whole scene here? So other than the beautiful sunset, we just want to show you what's actually happening around this waterhole. So if you go off to the right here, there's a big herd of elephants that has come down to drink water. So you might just see them at the very back there. You'll see one of the babies actually rolling down in the mud. And So it's so beautiful. So we have the sun setting, we have the elephants, and this is the other treat that's coming. Just off in the middle of the waterhole, at the back, there's a couple of vultures. I think it's right there, and if we try to zoom in from there, just I think from there go left. Yeah, a little bit left. And you'll notice there's a hyena on a carcass with some vultures around. So we'll definitely go a little bit closer to go and investigate and see what it is. But we just thought, wanted to share with everyone this beautiful scene that we're looking at the moment. But I just want to own, if we can focus on those elephants again, you'll notice they're just slowly starting to move off. We might just get the tail part of the herd. Oh, you know, they've already moved. I think they didn't want to stick around for too long. So what I think we'll do from here is let's go closer and then go investigate and see what that hyena might be feeding on. How's that? No. Wow. They always reckon there's no sunset like a beautiful African sunset, and I definitely raise both my hands for that. So what we want to try and do, there's an old road that's on this side of the waterhole, so we eventually take that old road and then do a loop around and see if we can get to that hyena with that carcass. Yeah, we are going to go on that 2-track. Okay, hold on. So it'll be interesting to see what it is. Like from where we were earlier, it almost looked like another hyena that was there, but I'm sure it's probably something like a warthog or maybe a waterbuck. I'm not too sure. So, and we're not far. It's just I can actually see the vultures flying up now. And there's quite a few vultures. I saw there's some whiteback vultures and a leopard-faced vulture, as well as a hooded vulture. So already 3 out of the 5 vulture species we get in the area. And of course, there's some beautiful hippos also in the waterhole. Ellie, I would say with the elephants, they won't be too bothered with the hyenas. So normally what will happen is, especially with one hyena like this, if the elephants would have been really close, they'll chase it. But if it's on the other side of the water, they don't really mind it. They'll continue to drink and then just move on from there. Well, I can see one of the big vultures. So the biggest vulture we get here is the leopard-faced vulture. And I can just see him trying to intimidate this hyena. Let's just position it like this. It is actually another hyena. I think I don't know if the hyena might have passed away from old age or if possibly it was killed by lions. But I think that's why the other hyena was probably just trying to chase these vultures off. But you'll notice that big vulture off to the right with a bit of pink around the face. It's a leopard-faced vulture, and just consider the size of it. It's got a considerable size, bigger than the other vultures. And with all of this, there's a whole pot of hippos as well, and I don't know if everyone heard that grunting. But what was so interesting is earlier on that other hyena looked like it was tearing little bits of meat out of this hyena, which is very, very interesting. I have heard about it before, but seeing it is quite strange. So while we're going to stick around here for the next little while, let's send you across to Tswalu Kalahari, looking at an old kill.
Wow, it sounds like Nikki's had some incredible viewing down there with those hyenas and vultures. Sure. So we've been following up on this leopard kill from earlier today. It doesn't seem like there's been any further activity on it, but they may even return during the course of the evening. But we're certainly going to stick around. You never know what rocks up. And then, in the area. And then we still haven't located on that gemsbak that our field patrols called in. But we'll keep scavenging around for that, and that also might be worthwhile spending a bit of time with. So leopards they'll feed on meat that's, completely rotten, again, depending on how easily prey is available in the area. And this carcass, it was fed on at some point in the early hours of the morning. It was still really fresh when we got here. So I think they probably left it shortly before we arrived. So that's what I'm hoping. That obviously we're not going to approach this, on foot now, because on these big weaver nests you can actually get something lying right on the very top there that you can't see until you're underneath it, then it jumps off. So we'll just hang around a little bit, but we did a loop around the area and we didn't see any obvious signs of tracks coming in. So we could miss those very, very easily with this light and the grass and stuff. And there's always the chance of things like jackal coming in, hyena, brown or spotted hyena. And it's just great being out here. That's the other side of it. So we think it looks like a grey duiker. It's a very small antelope that we get here. Very, very common. And an important food item for leopard, caracal, wild dogs. Wonder what those weavers think of having a dead animal dumped on top of their nest, though. Like, oh, really? Can't you just take it to the tree next door? So we're gonna just spend a bit of time in this area, not necessarily at this tree, but I want to see if we can pick up any sign of fresh tracks, or maybe even, before it's too late, try to locate on that gemsbak carcass. But then I think in the meantime, head back to the vultures and hyena activity.
The beaks aren't as well developed as this whiteback, and also not as that of the leopard face. So he'll have to wait until they've opened up the carcass enough for him to get some scraps. Often with his bill, he'll also be able to get in the meat in between the bones. But I think the one that would be able to open up most of the carcass would probably be that leopard face vulture, the one off to the right. So the other ones, because of the tough skin of the hyena, might just be waiting for that vulture to open up a bit more of the carcass before they can get in. But the one thing about vultures, the way they feed is sometimes pretty gruesome to watch, because what they do is they basically hook on with their bill, and then they would pull the bill quite aggressively, and by doing that they're trying to basically rip the skin off so they can get to the softer meat inside. You'll notice that one on the left of the screen. He's trying to open up the hyena from the ear, so maybe because that's probably going to be a bit softer than trying to go for that hard skin around the face. That's why he's trying to get him from that side. Now, just looking on this hyena, like, I'm not able to see a lot of scars, and I don't know, because of the angle and also the poor light, if it's an old hyena that might have died from, of course, old age. Was it possibly killed by a lion, or was there a dispute between two different clans, and then one clan probably killed this individual? Those are the options. I mean, I'm just thinking of possible options, what could have caused the death. Doesn't look like, if I look at the condition of the hyena, that it was in a very bad condition. In other words, I don't see a lot of the bones sticking out. I don't see any form of skin disease or anything like that. So I don't think it was because of her illness. I think it was more either old age, either because of another predator, or maybe a dispute between different clans. So with the hyena, so early on I saw the one hyena actually trying to take a little chunk out of this hyena. That's why I thought maybe it was a warthog or something else. But you do find sometimes with hyenas, if there's other hyenas that have, or if they killed some hyenas from a different clan, they might even eat that other hyena. But I don't know this one, if it's maybe part of the same clan. Probably went to see if it can get a bit of a meal, but then eventually just gave up and moved off. But you can see definitely that leopard-faced vulture is trying to actually see if it can open the carcass from the back rump area. And I think that's probably where the softest skin would be, just to tear that and then open it from there. You often see with predators as well, especially with cheetah, whenever they make a kill, they might even start opening the carcass from there and then feast their way forward. There's actually, I see there's a waterbuck that also came a little bit closer to probably get down to the water for a drink. See the little gap here? Off to the left. So around about there. There he is. So it's a big bull that's probably coming down to drink water. And I think he spotted these vultures, so he's just trying to see if everything is safe before he starts moving on. Or maybe not on, but towards the water. The only thing you can see now is that white ring around the bum. Very distinctive feature of a waterbuck. So you'll notice one of the vultures flew off, and the thing is, because it's getting dark, so vultures need to roost up in trees at night. And then often what happens is as soon as it starts getting dark and dark, of course there might be other hyenas that will move in, and the vultures can't see that well at night, so it's not going to be long before these ones will eventually set off and then head up into a tree. And it'll be interesting to know if other hyenas might come and feast on this hyena during the evening, or is this hyena going to be here until tomorrow morning before the vultures can come back and finish it off. So while we carry on from here, because I think it's not going to be long before we lose all the bit of light we have, and then these vultures will eventually move off. While we do that, let's send you across to Steve, who's currently tracking on foot.
Everyone, sorry about that. We're trying to just show you a track here, but it's getting quite dark. It looks like we've got tracks of a female leopard that have come up this road here. The best way to look at tracks sometimes is a very handy torch. Davi, is that working? You can see how shiny, can you see how shiny it is over here? And the edges are quite perfect, actually. There were lots of tracks. You can almost see the comparison to my shoe over here. The edges are quite sharp and quite nice, whereas an older track over here, it's all collapsed and fallen apart. There we go, very, very pretty. Look at that. So now, everybody, if you do have the time and inclination and you feel like supporting us, please do go to the link below so we can continue to bring you wonderful scenes from the African wilderness. Just go below and you have all the details there. We're going to quickly zoom up this road. Maybe let Tristan know as well. He's behind us there. Wonder if he's seen. We just had a little chat before. Let me just have a look. Let me just let him know, because he's very keen to find this female as well. Chat to him in a minute. These are... Okay, so now because I can see them quite nicely, they're quite fresh. They look like they just went off there. That is the problem. Especially if it's a territorial marking female. She doesn't always keep to the road. Okay, they're still going. Now, I hope these are as fresh as I'd like them to be, but it is getting to that time of day when it does become a little bit difficult to do. But normally, if you find tracks in a road like this, you've got to think to yourself, where could that animal be going? Is it thirsty, perhaps? If so, there's a watering hole over this rise. Is it hungry? Is it hunting? Sometimes you can see that by the way that the track turns to the right or the left. Okay. Don't see them now. There's one. Someone's driven here. As I've spoken before, these animals do like to move on the roads. As you can see, it's quite easy for us to drive. Nice and straight and quiet. Not too bumpy, except for these little mitre drains. Let's go check our little watering hole. Okay, very good. Well, it is getting to that time of day when the infrared will be utilized, as Nikki is doing over in Ngala. Let's send you back over there.
So we just had the vultures moving off, so it's starting to get dark now. You can see we've just put on the infrared, and if we go back, that's all that's... You can see the whole hyena carcass is still there. So those vultures have settled in for the evening, and it might be that later on there could be other hyenas, but it'll be interesting to see. Like, I mean, from... instead of just reading or seeing sightings in other areas, I've never actually seen a hyena carcass on Ngala before, especially a whole carcass like that. So it'll be interesting to see if other hyenas are going to take it during the evening, or maybe if the vulture is going to finish it off in the morning. Binek, you might find that if lions, like with that pride that we saw now, the chances are very unlikely that they'll feed off this hyena. In cases of severe drought, you often find if there's lions that are by themselves, or possibly a pride in there, and they would find something like this, they would possibly make use of the opportunity, but you don't really. If they have a choice, they'll rather avoid it. However, jackal could be another option. Is just I've never seen a jackal feeding off, or even heard about a jackal feeding off a hyena carcass. So that would be really interesting. I mean, and that's the whole thing about it. So I know there could be some possible records about it, but I'm just not too sure as we are talking now. However, it'd be interesting to know in the morning, because if we get here in the morning, then either, of course, hyenas if they would have been, or there might be jackal in the area, and at least then we'll be able to say, okay, at least from our observation, from what we see here, this is what happened during the evening. It would have been so nice. Imagine spending the whole evening here and filming every little bit of it to see all the animals that will eventually come past here. Because I think it might be a little while before anything comes down to the water that might even spot this. And also, because it's such a fresh kill, or I mean not a kill, but such a fresh carcass, you might find that there's not a lot of, it doesn't have a bad smell to it. So it might not necessarily attract other hyenas or jackal as of yet, but maybe later on. Now, there's quite a few things we quickly want to show. So there's a few double-banded sandgrass, but have a look at the moon over the waterhole. So you'll see there's quite a bit of cloud cover, and that might just be because of how cold it is. Might be a cold front moving in, and then you'll just see look at how beautiful the moon is tonight. And then, and can you focus, see those little birds that have just come down onto the bank there? So there's some double-banded sandgrass that just came down. So they often, especially as soon as, you'll just see some movement now, but as soon as it starts getting dark, you find these double-banded sandgrass coming down to drink water. So in a survival situation, often early in the morning and late in the afternoon, it's nice being able to follow them, because they'll eventually lead you down to water. So while we are going to slowly start carrying on, because it's getting darker and darker here, we're going to send you across to Tswalu Kalahari, who's apparently still has the sun shining.
No idea how. Keep watching, keep watching, keep watching. If you look on the left-hand side of the screen, and I know it's very far. Can you see it there? Leopard on the left, on the far left-hand side of the screen. There's a cat sitting there, and it's walking. Okay, this is it. Guys, we have the real McCoy Kalahari leopard. And we've just moved away from that tree about 10 minutes ago. But again, I don't know who this cat is, and it's there's no ways I'll tell from this distance. So I want to first see how relaxed she is, what she does, or it's male, female, cub, whatever it is. And then we're going to get, I'm ecstatic. I'm absolutely, I cannot believe this. Oh, we got a second. We have a second leopard, guys. This is insane. Sorry, I'm getting really excited about this, but it's not every day that we see leopards. Yeah, we got two. Okay, that's a mother. That'll be a female, adult female on the right, and that's a youngster on the left. Guys, I don't even know what to say now. Andre. This is nuts. I'm absolutely over the moon. just guys, I can't believe this, eh? Okay, she's obviously quite alert. I wonder if, because we did the same loop that we did earlier, and with a vehicle when we went in this morning and then again this afternoon just to check up on the kill. So I wonder, if she's now sniffing the scent of the vehicle or what's going on there. But let's just see and watch it from a distance. So to give you an idea of the distance, we're sitting at a range of about there you go. So Chandra, now we're going to stick with the sighting now, and so even if we head back to any of our colleagues, we're not going to go anywhere. So you'll also be able to join us again at any stage. I'm just absolutely ecstatic about this. I mean, I know it's long range sighting, but for us in the Kalahari, it's a leopard sighting is something incredibly special. Chandra, you're doing a fine job there keeping it, but. Shaggy Dog, why I love that question that you've just asked there in terms of is there a difference in leopards in the Kalahari and places like Djuma? The simple answer is no. They're all the same kind of leopard. The leopards, if you go down to Cape Town, for instance, right on the southern tip of Africa, those leopards there are incredibly small. So those leopards down in those areas in the Cape are incredibly small, and a big male down there would be 30 kilograms, 35 kilograms. Up in Djuma, Ngala, Phinda, those areas, the guides will be better placed to tell you, but those leopards, a male, they can get to 70, 80 kilograms. That's kind of the same size range that we'd be dealing with in these areas. But so when I refer to Kalahari leopard, it's not technically correct. It's just, it's leopard, Panthera pardus. And there's 4. Wow, so okay. So we're gonna stick with this and just see what they get up to and if they move anywhere. And then old Gibson, Mel Gibson, Melanie Mark II, Melanie 2.0 has got some attire. This is now, the latest fashion out here, we believe. But we're going to keep track of these cats, and please head back down to Djuma where they've got another good leopard sighting there as well.
And we get quite excited when we find fresh tracks, that shimmering shininess that they give off. And we came up towards the water. We're right here next to... Okay, come on, what do you got, Lalamba? There was some Impala here before. Actually heard an Impala shout at her. Notice we are in the infrared now as well. Just trying to look behind me and see what I can see, but I can't see anything. Bearing in mind it's pretty dark right now. Hello, gorgeous. Isn't this just wonderful? Hashtag I love my job. Here we go. Now there's a watering hole just here outside of one of the new lodges built here on Djuma called Tambeta. Little watering hole and water. Cats will drink regularly. Obviously if it's too hot you find them just sitting and waiting. Let me know when you want me to move Davy. Okay, she stopped. She's moving. Okay, so she hasn't. We thought initially she might have seen something, but She just wants to come to this watering hole and have a drink. So let's just get you in a nice position so that we can see that happen. So I'm just going to have to stop behind her here. I'm not going to be able to get in front. Do you think, Darby? Just like that? There we go. Little watering hole. Now, water provision is an important thing in reserves. And as it gets drier and drier... Darby, should I move up there a bit? Okay, I'm just going to see if I can move over to the side here. She's very relaxed, everybody, so don't worry. She's not going to run away. You don't ever want to influence an animal with their drinking or eating or whatever behavior that they might be trying to do. Tell me when you're happy, Davisito. Little left. So like I said, just outside Tambeta camp where there's a little hide, you can watch the animals come and drink. So if you were a guest in that lodge now, you'd be able to potentially be viewing this leopard doing its thing. Although it is dark, you probably wouldn't see much, but you'd hear the noise. She's very alert. She snacked on a little bit of the Impala leg that she stole from Thandi this morning. Other than that, Lumber spent probably the last year or so within this very particular area. Dove, you want to know if this leopard's mated already? And I haven't seen her mating with anyone. When I was last here 2.5 months ago, Dovey, was it December she called, eh? First time. The first time she called was in December, which meant she was 2 years and a month old, because she was born in November 2 years ago. And so she was 2 years and a month, and she called. And I thought that was pretty early for a female to be calling. And then scent marking. See, she's going to scent mark. So she's definitely advertising her presence. But I haven't seen her with any male. I don't know if anyone on the show has seen her mating, but I'm pretty sure it would have been. I would have received it on my feed at some point if Twitter or on Facebook or something would have found me and told me that she'd done so. So I don't think it's happened, but I do stand it to be corrected. She is now going to be moving out over towards the open area of quarantine, which is an area that she has done very well in. The whole of December, November, December, January, she was around this area, just hanging around directly here and picking off the Impala lambs one by one. Tingana was nearby too, and he kept stealing it from her. So we're just going to use our spotlight so that we can find her. I'm pretty sure she's just going to come out into the open, but in the... You got her, eh? Okay, Darby's got it. That's very good. Okay, she's just going on this game path here, so I can see her. And she knows as she comes out of the bushes here that... Oh, she's going to do another scent mark on that tree. She knows that as she comes out of the bushes here, gets... Oh, there we go. That first Impala is alarm called. She's on a territorial mission now after drinking. The Impalas knew she was here before. That's how we actually found her, was the Impala shouting. You'll listen to it now off to our left. She knows as she comes out into the open, she's visible. Do you hear that? Kalamba, you little beauty. Kalamba just soared, everybody. That's the first time I've actually physically seen it. Oh, that makes me so happy. I think I'm just going to keep going, Darby. I think I'm out of sync, so I'm not going to look at you. Okay. Now, there's a little access road here. This is going straight down to Vuitela Dam. She's done an enormous bit of walking today. An enormous bit of walking. Okay, so when a leopard is spotted by the prey animal, they give up. They don't try and hunt. It's the energy consumption or prevention strategy. I've seen it with Tingana many times. There she is. Seen it with Tingana many times. As soon as he gets spotted by a prey animal, he immediately territorial marks. He's like, okay, I've been seen. Might as well tell you that I'm here. Impala has seen her, and she's done the same thing. Hello, Rutherford. I'm not sure if you heard that clearly. I went, Now, that sound is called sawing. It's a territorial marking. If you've ever taken a bow saw, if you've ever taken a saw and cut some wood, that is exactly what it sounds like. So it's called sawing. Lions, it's called roaring. Leopards, they call sawing. She's about across the road here. There, she's scent marking in the road. She's trying to keep to the bushes. Going to avoid those impala that have seen her and go and find some more. So I'm going to be completely lights down from here on out, everybody. So it's going to be interesting trying to keep up with her. Just going to give an update on the radio real quick, if you don't mind. Stations, I'm still with Kalamba. She's just on the western side of Vuitela Dam, mobile towards Yuri's house and the access between Vuitela Camp. Yuri, go ahead. Okay, so we're going to have to try track her with the lights down, which is never easy, but this allows the animals and the leopards the freedom. We lost her already. Now I can just see her at my 1 o'clock here. Out the corner of my eye. Can you see her there, Darby? It's just there. Try to get in front of her. I have to use my headlights over here to get in front so that I don't crash into a stump. And then we're going to pull up over here. There she is. Hello, beautiful. Michael, I think she is. I actually wanted to comment this morning. Everything just went so quickly when Kalamba arrived on the scene. She suddenly arrived, and I was actually marveled at how much bigger she's gotten since I last saw her. She's really filled out a lot. I mean, she's only 2.5. And Tundi's, 13, 14 years old now, maybe even onto her 15th year. So a very long way behind. And when it comes to age, leopards definitely lose a little bit of size as they get older. Now, we're going to be going through the camp access here, which is going to be tricky. See if we can do it. She's going to walk straight up and past our camp. And that's what she likes to do. We find her tracks through camp all the time. Directly in front of us, Darby. There she goes. So I personally think she's bigger than Thandi now. I wonder what Tristan's opinion is on that. I saw the two of them together today. And what did you think, Darby? Did you have a marginal? I thought it was marginal. Huh? You think Thandi's smaller? No. You think Kalamba's smaller? Okay. That's one of the great things about the show, is the amount of opinions that we can all have. Obviously, it's always an opinion, isn't it? So we can get them on a scale and weigh them. I believe Tanya's a very small female in comparison to other females I've seen. Very successful female. Don't let me get you wrong there, but... Oh, quick Darby, she's having a poo. Dove, no, I don't think so. I mean, she might get a little bit, genetically, after 2.5 years, they generally are sort of at the right height. Males will fill out more, like Hosanna. He's filled out a lot. He's actually probably her uncle/older brother. Males after 2.5, 3 have done a lot of the sort of the height growing, but they then stock out. But she is, in my opinion, is not going to grow much more. She might put on a bit more muscle or strengthen herself a bit more, but I don't think she's going to get any bigger. But I'd like to hear Tristan's take on that. He's known her since the day she was born. I met her a month after. It's been a very wonderful ride. The first time I saw Kalamba, she was smaller than Thandi's current cub. And now look at her. We got to see both of them today in one sighting. That was magical. Magical. Kalamba, are you taking us home for an early dinner? Are you? This is the road right up to our camp and right home for food. Yes, indeed. Well, I'm very interested to know what Tristan's thoughts are on the two questions posed. Let's send you over to him and ask.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to say. I always say with leopards, without seeing them in the same sighting together, it's always a tough one to judge size. I mean, Steve is in a prime position this morning to have seen the two of them together, given that they were there. For me personally, though, if I just kind of think about what I see when I see the two of them, I think that Kalamba is definitely the same height. But I think that Thandi, due to the fact that she's had cubs, she's herniated a little bit, just has a deeper, broader body, and just somehow feels like she's got sort of thicker set shoulders at this stage. It might not be the case at all. You might find if they actually stand side by side that Kalamba is taller, but she definitely seems as though she's a little bit more slender, more slim built. And like I said, that's probably because she hasn't had any cubs yet. Her stomach hasn't herniated like Thandi's has. Remember that Thandi is on her 7th litter now, and she's had milk and all those kinds of things, so it just makes her feel a little bit broader than what, and I say broader, but I mean like kind of point of view, than what Kalamba would be. But yeah, I mean, like I say, sizing of leopards is always something that is such a tricky thing. Everyone always wants to know who's the biggest leopard. And a lot of the time people will be like, this one's the biggest leopard. But actually, they're often very, very similar in size. So, it's one of those things. Until you see them together, I always try and just reserve judgment on size-wise. I mean, there is certain individuals there it's quite obvious there's a size difference, like Shadulu Thandi. But Kalamba Thandi, I think Thandi's maybe a bit bulkier, but height-wise, I think they're pretty similar, to be honest with you. Maybe Kalamba's even a little bit taller. It's got very high kind of waist at the back. Kalamba, long back legs. Always thought so, which has been cool. But I was just checking around this sort of western side in case there was some sort of sign of Tingana. I'm so desperate to see Tingy before I go. Like I say, you never know what can happen. He's an older cat. We're at that time where I'm not going to be around here very much, and so it's well, not. I mean, I might be back soon. Who knows? But can never really tell what's going to happen with an older cat, and so I really wanted to just catch up with him, and in case, in case he disappears at some point and I don't get to see him again. It would be very sad if I don't get to see him one last time. So Tingy, if you're out there and listening tomorrow, please, thank you. Make an appearance, or now. You can be your normal self and last minute it and come out. That would be also quite fine. I'd be quite happy with that. Anyway, we'll just have to wait until tomorrow to see what it brings. Alright, so while it's dark here, it sounds like Tswalu Kalahari still has the sun and light. Well, maybe not the sun, but it's still light of day is up there. So let's send you across to Dylan, see what their plans are for the last little bit.
You're not going to believe what just happened, and it was so fast. I mean, we barely even had time to register it. As we moved in to try to get a better sighting of these cats, we were maybe still 300 yards from them, and next thing, boom, here comes a leopard running over the dune, the youngster with a browner hyena chasing it. Then the adult scampers up the tree. Okay, just to contextualize this is like all in the space of like seconds. This is not like we've been sitting enjoying it by ourselves for like the past hour, Youngster goes straight over the dune, brownie hyena after it. Mother up the tree, sits there for a couple of seconds, bolts down the tree. And now that bush that Jandre is now moving in on, you got to just trust us on this. There's a browner hyena sitting behind that bush as we're speaking. So unfortunately, that's up on deep sand that we can't get to with the vehicles, just in terms of the ecological aspects there. But just bear with us a little bit. There's a very, very strong likelihood the little guy's going to pop out at any moment. I'm hoping. We'll just kind of just sit there and just hold thumbs. It should be out fairly soon. It just popped out, watched us, and then stuck its head back down again. So it's definitely in there somewhere. Yes, this is so exciting. Oh, geez. That's just, I mean, you never know what you're going to get out here. Come on. There. So I wonder what it's doing over there, because it's doing straight behind there. But Jandre and I, we're actually going to pop out here again tomorrow. Oh, there's a leopard on the left, on the dune crest. Go to the left on the dune crest. Go left. There. There's a leopard. Oh, my word. Jeez, I can't believe this, guys. And it's watching the browner hyena. Well, it can only be watching the browner hyena. This is absolutely... This is incredible. Leopards in the Kalahari. This is just like I'm in heaven here. And I'm really glad you could all be with us to see this. Yes. Wow. Yes, I'm like to be able to share this kind of thing with people that enjoy it and appreciate it is just, this is what makes it for me. You know, it's the wilderness people that enjoy it is just absolutely first prize. Eh? So thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing it, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning, and have a good rest. And yeah, tomorrow's another day.